Have you ever considered what would happen if one day you simply stepped away? Not physically disappearing, but detaching, silencing the invisible threads that keep you bound to others. Have you ever wondered what the world would do if you decided, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but purely for yourself, to leave the space you've always occupied? Most people never think about this. But distance, true distance, has an eerie power. It's as if your absence disrupts an unseen balance, unsettling something far deeper than just a longing for your presence. Because stepping away doesn't just remove you from the equation, it exposes something raw in others, something they may not be ready to face. And that's where the real intrigue begins. Your absence isn't just about being missed. It's about what it forces others to confront. Because when you are gone, a void remains. And voids are never neutral. They reveal not just a lack of you, but the truth about those left behind. You see, people don't perceive you as you truly are. They see you as they need you to be. You are a projection screen, a mirror reflecting their insecurities, desires, and expectations. And when you step away, the mirror shatters. They're no longer looking at you, but at the empty space where their reflection used to be. And that, more than your absence, is what disturbs them the most. Think about it. How many times have you been told, I need you, I couldn't do this without you, or you're important to me? But have you ever noticed how often those words seem to be more about them than about you? Distance has a way of stripping away illusions. When you step back, you remove the image they relied on, and suddenly they are left with something they can't quite name. It isn't just loneliness. It isn't just longing. It's something much more uncomfortable, a confrontation with themselves. What's left of them if you are no longer there? That is the question they do not want to ask. And yet, your absence forces it upon them. It's unsettling, isn't it? The realization that sometimes people don't depend on you out of love or connection, but because you serve as a buffer, a crutch for something they'd rather not face. And when that crutch is taken away, they wobble, they question, they panic. Not because they miss you, but because without you, they have no choice but to stand on their own. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. When you step away, something peculiar happens. People don't just feel your absence, they rewrite it. They reconstruct you, not as you are, but as they need to remember you. Some idealize you. Your absence makes you seem more valuable than you ever were in your presence. Nostalgia paints over reality, and suddenly, they convince themselves you were irreplaceable, extraordinary, even mythical. Others do the opposite. They demonize you. They convince themselves that your leaving was an act of betrayal, selfishness, or indifference. Not because you were any of those things, but because it is easier to be angry at you than to admit how deeply your absence unsettles them. But here's the real mystery. Why does stepping away hold so much power? Why does it create such chaos in the minds of those left behind? Because your absence is not just about you. It is about control. And when you step away, you break an unspoken agreement. Whether they realize it or not, they had built part of their emotional stability around you. And now, without warning, that structure collapses. And people don't like losing control, not over themselves, and certainly not over things they thought were constants in their lives. At first, they deny it. They tell themselves it's temporary, that you'll be back, that things will return to normal. But then, as time stretches on, something else begins to grow in that space. Doubt. Did they do something wrong? Were they too demanding? Did they fail to appreciate you enough? These questions begin to gnaw at them, not because they seek answers, but because they fear the truth. And the most ironic part? Many of them never realize how much space you occupied in their lives until you were no longer there. You see, when you spend time with someone, your presence intertwines with their identity. You become part of their daily rhythm, their expectations, their sense of self. And when you step away, they are not just losing you. They are losing a part of who they were when they were with you. And rebuilding that is not easy. So what do? They remember you, but not as you truly were. They remember you in a way that makes their loss easier to bear. Each person crafts a version of you that fits their own narrative. Some turn you into a saint, others into a villain, and a rare few, those with the courage to face themselves, Begin to ask the hardest question of all. Did I ever truly know them? Or was I only ever seeing a reflection of what I needed them to be? That is the question that lingers, the question that haunts. Because your departure is not just physical, it is symbolic. It represents a shift, a disruption, a loss of something they didn't even realize they depended on. And losing you, forces them to examine the cracks they spent so long ignoring. You may not hear it, you may not see it, but when you step away, you create ripples that disturb the entire emotional landscape you left behind. And the irony, while they are grappling with your absence, you too are experiencing something profound. Because stepping away is never easy. It requires courage to say, I need space for myself, knowing that others might not understand, knowing that you might be misinterpreted, knowing that choosing yourself might mean being seen as the villain in someone else's story. But here's the thing, growth often requires discomfort, for them and for you. And if you made it this far, I know that something about this resonates with you. Maybe you stepped away from someone. Maybe you felt the weight of detachment. Or maybe someone walked away from you, and you're trying to understand why. Whatever the case, I invite you to reflect. How much of your peace depends on the presence of others? And how much are you willing to let go in order to truly find yourself? I want you to leave a comment with this phrase. Absence reveals truth. Write it if this message spoke to you, if you've ever felt its weight, if you know what it means to step away or to be left behind. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because here, we don't talk about the easy stuff. We explore the questions that linger in the depths, the thoughts most people avoid but that hold the power to change us. But don't leave just yet. There's something more you need to understand. Because while your absence may shake the world of those you leave behind, it also gives them a gift, the chance to grow, the chance to realize their own strength, to learn who they are without you. And maybe, just maybe, that is the most powerful thing you could ever leave behind.